Salaam O Alaikum, peace be upon you all. The question that I'm going to tackle today is one that is frequently asked by many people. Not only those who are non-Muslim, but also those of us who are Muslims. And the question is this: why do we allow our children to go to the mosque? It is because the mosque is not just a building. Rather, it's a second home, a sanctuary. And it is the place where our children learn about their identity, how to become good human beings and great individuals. But if you think about it from a practical perspective, it is quite easy for some people to point out that the mosque is a place where a lot of people gather. And so there could be a lot of risks involved in sending your children over there. But what I want to point out is that the same argument can be used against just about every single place where children are sent. And it would be interesting to know whether or not parents apply the same level of risk analysis to every single one of those places. For example, schools. When we send our children to school, we do realize that they are going to be spending time with other children. There will be other students, there will be teachers, there will be staff members, there will be outsiders who come into the school to teach the kids certain things. And even though we vet these people, even though we check their backgrounds and try to make sure that they are suitable, nevertheless, we still don't know what could happen. So why do we send our children to schools? We send our children to schools because the benefits far outweigh any potential risks that may occur. And the same thing applies to the mosque. However, what I do want to point out is that the role of the mosque and the role of education, Islamic education, is actually very, very vital in the life of a Muslim. Just take a look at the first ayah, or verse, of the first surah in the Quran, which is Surah Al-Fatiha. Now, right away, in the first ayah of the Quran, a lesson is being taught. It's just like the introduction to the course, if you want to think of it in those terms. The course of how to be a human being. The course of how to worship Allah. And the course of how to live your life in a proper way. And that is something that we need to constantly remind ourselves of. And that's the beauty of coming to the mosque. That here we are reminded of who we are, what we stand for, and what our purpose in life is. When we go to the mosque, we read the Quran. When we read the Quran, we're learning about the attributes of Allah. We're learning about our rights and duties. And we're learning how to live our lives. And I have seen this firsthand because when I was younger, I started asking me questions about life. And so it became imperative upon me to start learning about Islam. And this is something that I learned at a very young age simply by hearing the stories of the prophets, peace be upon them. Another important thing that happens in the masjid is that we learn how to perform the salat, the prayer. And we learn that 5 times a day we have to come together as a community and turn towards Allah in complete submission. And that is the spirit of Islam. And that is what makes Islam very unique. That no matter who you are, no matter what your status in society is, 5 times a day you have to leave everything and just come to Allah. You have to leave your wealth, your children, your fame, your status, and just come and bow down before Allah. And that is the beauty of Islam. And that is something that we learn here in the mosque. There are so many lessons that we learn here in the mosque. There are so many things that we do here in the mosque. And there is nothing that happens in the mosque that is not beneficial for the children. And sometimes the things that we do here in the mosque help develop the character of the children. For example, one of the things that we do here in the mosque is that we gather in a group and we recite the Quran together in the prayer. And the children participate in this as well. And just by listening to the course of the recitation, they are learning tajweed. They are learning the proper pronunciation. They're learning to read the Quran. And they're also learning to work in a group to come together and to coordinate. And that is something that happens regularly in the mosque. We also have programs during the week. Here in our mosque, for example, we have something called the Huda program. It's an Islamic leadership program for kids. They learn about their rights and duties, and they learn about what's expected of them as Muslims. And not only that, but they engage in debates. They learn how to speak in public. They learn how to present themselves. They learn how to lead. And all of these are important aspects of a child's development. Now, if you look at all of these activities that take place in the mosque, you will realize that the mosque is a very safe environment for the children. Not only do they learn about their faith, but they also learn how to become good human beings, great leaders, and productive members of society. And if we compare that to other environments, you will realize that what happens in the mosque is far superior to what happens in other places. What I want to say in conclusion is that yes, there may be potential risks anywhere and everywhere. But if we look at the benefits of bringing our children to the mosque, and if we look at the bad that can happen if we keep our children away from the mosque, we will realize that it is far more beneficial for our children to be in the mosque under the shade of Allah Almighty, where they are learning about their faith, where they are becoming good human beings, great leaders, and righteous individuals. And that is the spirit of Islam, and that is the purpose of the mosque. As-salamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.